For decades, we've heard one simple story. America is the land of wealth, and Russia, well, it's a place of hardship. The numbers you see online seem to back that up, right? Case closed. But what if that's not the whole story? What if it's not even close? The analysis we're digging into today makes a really startling claim that when you look at what your money actually buys you, real security, a real life, that whole picture gets flipped completely on its head.
Okay, so let's start with the headline number. This is the one everybody sees. The average monthly salary in the USA, about $5,200. And in Russia, around $880. I mean, that is a massive, massive gap. Looking at just this slide, you'd think, all right, there's no contest here.
So that's it then, right? Americans are just flat out richer? And a story. Let's all go home. Well, hold on. The analysis we're looking at says, not so fast. It argues that this very number is the start of a huge misunderstanding. And that misunderstanding really starts with one surprisingly tricky little word, average. According to the source material we're breaking down, if you rely on that one metric, you're walking right into a trap that completely warps the reality of the situation. The source uses a brilliant analogy for this. Just imagine 9 regular people in a room, and then one billionaire walks in. Suddenly, the average income in that room is astronomical, right? It makes everyone look like a millionaire on paper. But the median, that's the person standing smack in the middle, their income tells you the real story, and it isn't affected by that one super wealthy outlier. So let's do that. Let's switch to the much more honest median income after taxes. The US figure comes down to about $4,200. The Russian figure is around 70,000 rubles, which is roughly $770. Now, of course, that is still a huge gap, no question. But this is just step one in the author's argument. And this brings us to the next and maybe most important concept in this whole analysis. The author calls it the honesty coefficient. And the idea behind it is super simple. It's not about how many dollars you have in the bank. It's about what those dollars can actually buy right where you live. This table shows it perfectly. See, nominal GDP, that's kind of the tourist's view of an economy, what it looks like if you just convert everything to dollars at the exchange rate. But GDP at PPP, that's purchasing power parity. That measures what the economy actually produces based on its own internal prices. And just look at that difference. It's not even close. So when you do the math, when you divide that PPP number by the nominal one, you get this. 2.81. The source calls this the honesty coefficient, and it is the absolute heart of the financial argument here. So what does that number actually mean? Well, according to this analysis, it means your money, a ruble spent inside Russia, has almost 3 times the real-world buying power of its dollar equivalent. We're talking about things you buy every day. A haircut, a bus ticket, your groceries, basic services. They cost way, way less. Okay, so that's the day-to-day stuff. But now let's get into the big, tangible assets, where the author claims the real difference in quality of life becomes absolutely undeniable. And it all starts with the very ground beneath your feet.
I mean, just look at this comparison. We're talking about a similar piece of land in the suburbs of 2 pretty comparable cities. The source points out a price difference that's 5 to 8 times higher in the US. But here's the kicker. It argues the real difference isn't just buying the land, it's the crushing cost of keeping it year after year. And this slide, wow, this is where the whole argument really comes into focus. The source claims that over 3/4 of Russians live in homes they own outright. No mortgage, no debt, it's theirs. In the US, that number is barely a quarter. Everybody else is either renting or, changed to a 30-year mortgage. And to really hammer this point home, the author gives us this brick house test. A solid, well-built brick home, something that's totally achievable for a regular middle-class Russian family, is described as an unthinkable luxury in the U.S. suburbs, costing up to 8 times more. It's why the source says most American homes are just built with wood frames.
So beyond the giant cost of housing, this analysis digs into those relentless everyday costs and societal things that just drain your wallet and, honestly, your peace of mind.
Let's talk about transportation. The source makes a powerful point. In most of the U.S., a car isn't a luxury, it's a necessity, right? You can't live without it. And that necessity comes with a huge price tag, about $1,000 a month all in. The author calls this a hidden tax on existence that most Russians can just avoid, thanks to walkable cities and great public transit.
Next, the analysis frames something you might not think of as a financial issue, your personal safety. The argument is that in the US, if you want to live in a truly safe neighborhood, you often have to pay a serious premium for it.
And to back this up, the source shows these national robbery statistics. It suggests that basic safety is less of a product you have to buy in Russia and more of just the default setting.
And the theft statistics just continue that exact same story. The core idea here is that the cost of simply feeling secure is a major and often uncounted expense in one country while it's something that's largely taken for granted in the other.
And this quote from the article, it just sums up the whole point perfectly. It connects all that cold data to something deeply personal, something every parent feels, the security of your family.
And then you've got what the source calls society's invisible bonuses. Think about it. In Russia, you call an ambulance, it's free. In the US, that same ride could land you a $2,000 bill. Or what about college? The analysis points to tons of state-funded university spots versus the potential for six-figure student debt in America. These, the author argues, are huge financial shocks that just aren't part of the daily equation for most Russians.
So, after all that, what does it all add up to? Well, the author pulls all of these different threads together into one final and incredibly powerful comparison. The analysis defines this Russian lifestyle standard. And listen, it's not about luxury. It's about fundamental security. It's about owning your home, free and clear. It's healthcare and education that won't bankrupt you. And it's living in a place where you feel safe. These are the pillars.
And this is the financial punchline of the entire piece. To get that same level of fundamental security in the United States, the author calculates that an American would need to earn between $15,000 and $20,000 a month.
So let's just be crystal clear on the final conclusion here. What this analysis is arguing is that the baseline, achievable standard of living for an average person in Russia requires an American to be in the top 5 or 10% of all earners. It's a provocative claim. And the author suggests that if the average American actually understood this kind of security was possible, they would absolutely prefer it.
And really, that's what this all boils down to. It forces us to ask a really fundamental question. Is wealth just the number you see on your paycheck? Or is it the security, the ownership, and the peace of mind you can actually afford? The source leaves us with that final thought to chew on. What is the true measure of a good life?